So I have this thing about censorship. Growing up, censorship was exciting to me. No, not the actual censorship itself, but the label that said this is not suitable for you.
Oh, the forbidden fruit.
Exactly. I just used to get very excited when used to see the BBC One globe spinning around, and the announcer would say, "Now on BBC One, sex, violence, and bad language," and and then you'd be like, "Oh, I'm in."
I'm listening. You have my attention.
Yes. And also in the Radio Times, they used to write like, this film contains sex scenes, nudity, bad language, and strong violence or whatever. And then I used to sit there and watch it. No, I used to sit there and watch it and go, well, that's not what. Where's the sex?
Where's the sex? Where's the boobs?
That's what you're calling nudity? That's a dude's bum. Like there was a lot of that, and I remember it was part of the things of like collecting VHSs. Mm-hmm. So you'd have the big 15 or the 18. For those of you who do not come from the UK, the BBFC was the British Border Film Classification, and they slap ratings on the front of movies. They still do it. We got PG.
What is it in the States? It's the FFC?
The MPAA.
MPAA?
Well, it was the MPAA, and now it's just the MPA. It was the Motion Picture Association of America,
FCC.
And now it's just the Motion Picture Association. So they don't slap ratings on movie boxes in the States. They have like an R like on the bottom, on the back, like it's really sort of unobtrusive. And in England, it like screams it.
Yeah.
So if I was a kid and I got a movie that was rated, 12, 15, or 18, you've got a big red circle on it with the number in there, and you'd be like, I'm a grown-up because I'm watching this. This is...
Doesn't it ramp up? Isn't 12 sort of like a sort of off red, and then 15 it's like a round circle? It's like the 12 and the 15 both have like a white background with a red circle.
The 12 and the 15 are very similar. Nowadays it's changed.
And then the 18 was what? It was an 18. It was a white 18 with a red background.
With a red background,
right?
Yeah. And
did I say background?
Background, yeah. And nowadays they've changed it to make it easier to tell the difference between them on streaming platforms. So now I think that the 15 is pink and the 18 is red, and the 12, I'm not sure what color it is. The 12 I think is orange. I'm not sure, but they've changed it. It's not the same thing that I remember from back in the day from my childhood.
Is?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just remember that feeling of the forbidden fruit, as you say, and I remember our sister once, for example, saying, that there was a Bond movie on TV, and she'd be like, "Oh no, you can't watch that. That's bad." And I'd be like, "Well, I've probably seen it." And she said, "No, you don't understand. There's a Bond movie where at the end the bad guy's really scary, and he's on the back of a train, and he laughs." And I said, "What? You mean Baron Samedi from Live and Let Die?" I just remember that so vividly. There are so many conversations like that I remember vividly. And I remember like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and things like that. The things that were like...
What's scary in Temple of Doom?
I don't know. Nothing at all. It's all teddy bears and bunnies. So yeah, I remember like all of that stuff that got censored on TV, and you go looking for it on VHS, and in order to see the forbidden bits, and then you find out that the BBFC had censored that as well. So then you have to hunt down the American version. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there was a lot of discussion about Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And how Doctor Strange was the most horrific MCU entry that sort of pushed the boundaries of the 12 rating or the PG-13 rating in the US, which I find really hilarious, because the movie that we're talking about today, Drag Me to Hell, was rated PG-13. The funny thing is that Drag Me to Hell came out 13 years ago.
Yeah, well, still.
And Doctor Strange is really tame in comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're talking about it within the confines of the MCU, but I mean, Drag Me to Hell is like... I mean, I watched it yesterday. I watched the unrated version yesterday.
Yeah.
And the unrated version has a certain amount of... it has 11 seconds of extra bits. And it's a little bit more horrific, whereas the theatrical version, some of those moments are played a little bit more for laughs. But even when we saw it in the cinema, we saw it in its PG-13 original form, it's pretty fucking horrific.
Yeah.
you know, so I just find that interesting.
It's very interesting how the standards have changed, and obviously standards for everything have changed, and in what you're allowed to say and what you're allowed to show and what you're allowed to see and all that stuff.
Right.
But what's really funny for me is the different the difference in experience, right? So for you, it's like hunting those things down, right?
Yeah.
And then for me, I was a very sort of good boy. I would like wait until you told me that I was old enough to watch a movie, because you were doing a lot of censoring, just like, because I think you knew, because we give you a lot of flack for how much shit you used to give me, right? Like making me jump and whatever. But there are things that you would do specifically around movies that were really commendable, Mr. Bond.
Because I wanted you to experience things that I was experiencing, but there were certain things that I knew would disturb you.
Right. So you do Johnny cuts of movies. Like,
it was like targeted censoring. It wasn't sort of assuming that the entire population is going to be disturbed by
How
this.
did you used to edit films for me? You'd have a blank VCR, a blank VHS tape.
It was VCR to VCR.
Yeah, and you'd sort of like play, record, and then when it would get to a bit, you'd pause it, and then
and then replay it when that
fast forward and then record again.
I'm
that's like that. How is that? That's like crazy.
I'm wondering how, as an editor today, if I actually got a hold of any of that. I don't know where those are nowadays or how I would watch them, but I'm wondering like how that would hold up for me as an editor.
Do you know they're probably in the parents' in the wardrobe in my old bedroom, like at the back, like there are still some old VHSs in there, so they might still be there.
Okay, go looking for it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. The point is that that nowadays most things are rated 12. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, most things come out around the PG-13 mark. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of MCU movies, like a lot of action movies, like in, you know, back when we were growing up, action movies would be 15 or 18. They'd be really bloody and violent and have lots of swearing or whatever. And nowadays it's like there may be a trickle of blood coming out of someone's nose and somebody might say shit.
Right.
You know, beware.
What audiences? They're more sensitive now.
This week we're talking about Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi's squelchy horror comeback from way back in 2009, and the last film he made before returning to our screens last month with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Check out that episode. And yes, you heard that right. He made Drag Me to Hell, and then there was nothing happening. Just stop making movies. We got news, games, trivia, and VFX talk. It's all coming right up here on What's Our Seat Number. Let's have an episode.
What's our seat number?
Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number, the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. That's right, the points are just like the lawsuit we're going to get from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Hey. It just doesn't matter. We are your hosts, the dynamic duo. I'm Johnny Gross, a podcaster and a filmmaker of films at times. And joining me today, as always, is my co-host, connected to me only by the blood coursing through our veins. He's a paragon of calm, a picture of serenity, the proverbial water off the duck's back. If he were any more laid back, he'd be upside down. It's none other than 3D artist and lover of people everywhere, Simon Gross.
Those people clapping right now, fuck them. It's good to know that I'm in a good mood, isn't it? It always makes you want to do one of these.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Did you get enough sleep last night, Si?
No. Did you?
No, probably not.
I tell you, at some point the baby was pulling himself up in the cot and just like looking over at me, and I heard him babbling at me, and I looked over and I went, no. And he lay back down again. He didn't go back to sleep, but he got the message.
Oh, my goodness.
Please continue.
Well, it's time to go to the news desk for some movie news. Today on Movie News, Neve Campbell has released a statement saying that she will not be returning for Scream 6, a.k.a. The Scream.
No one cares.
They're due to start shooting today, I believe, but they have to put it off until Thursday, presumably to negotiate.
I'm asking you, do you actually care about that? Do you care if she appears in the next one? Hasn't she been in 6? Isn't it time for something new? Isn't it time to stop making Scream movies altogether? I'm
not sure. I mean, I know that we've talked about killing off legacy characters and whatever, but she should have a spectacular death if she's not going to do anymore.
Should she be the killer?
No, she shouldn't be the killer. I think that the issue here is about the pay, that she wasn't going to be paid enough money for the job that she was doing, and I believe they've written her in, so
Well, they can just write her out.
Indeed.
There's a fancy button on a computer called the backspace button.
Backspace or Del.
Yes, but you have to say it like you've got a mouth full of very large teeth. It's the backspace button.
Backspace.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been watching Disney's Obi-Wan Kenobi?
No, but I'm acutely aware of what's going on in it.
You're certainly cute. Not you.
Come on now. This charmer.
So the aforementioned, I say aforementioned because I mentioned it a minute ago, Obi-Wan Kenobi has been inexplicably greenlit for season 2 after only 3 episodes have aired.
Oh, really?
I've been watching it, and I can tell you that in my humble but expert opinion, you're all wrong except for me. It's not great. It's a bit... You know what I mean?
You and I have had this conversation before, and we were talking about how I'm dead inside on Friday, but you were how
dead inside on Friday.
Well, not dead inside exclusively on Fridays. We were on Friday.
We were talking about it on
Friday.
Friday.
To each other on Friday about how I'm dead inside, and you knew that, but you just saw an opportunity to be a twat. So there we go.
I genuinely thought you were dead inside on Fridays.
Why would you genuinely think that? You are a human of absolutely credible thought processes, right? Like you are able to form thoughts that are not stupid. Like I don't understand how your brain thought that was. You need some sleep, is what you're saying.
We all do. We all do. Parents and parents alike.
Anyway, gone off Star Wars a little bit.
Yeah.
The movies. I did enjoy the most recent video game that came out, and I am excited that they're remaking KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, and that they've announced a sequel to the Fallen Order video game. However, it's still not enough to excite me, and I think that the excitement what does excite me.
Yeah. And keep it clean.
So no, it's boring stuff though now. Well, I actually recently started playing something called Ratchet and Clank, and it's like Star Wars, but if all
sounds dirty.
It's not. It's like if all the characters were like animals and really.
It sounds like Cockney rhyming slang, actually.
What?
Let's have a little bit of a Ratchet Clank.
Shosh bought me this illustrated edition of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, right? And I haven't read Harry Potter for a very long time. And it was really fun for me to reread this book, which I already like, but with these really nice painted illustrations that it's really cool. So I've bought the next one in the series, and that sort of excites me. I also got some books on character design; those excite me. So I guess boring stuff. I'm playing video games that I like. I started a new one on PS5. It's lots of fun. I'm enjoying it. It's fun to look at. It's fun to play. I guess I'm not fanboying about stuff. I think that's the point of
because you've been bitten too much.
Maybe I've just grown out of that. I don't know. Like, I mean, I remember when the Revenge of the Sith movie came out. No, I get excited, but when Revenge of the Sith, I don't get obsessive. Like, when Revenge of the Sith came out, there was a video game adaptation that came out, and I had it on Xbox, and it was like announced alongside the movie. So the entire time when they were like releasing videos and screenshots and whatever, every tiny little thing, I was like, every little piece of information, I was like saving pictures to the desktop, like, you know, like all this weird stuff, and I was like super excited about it. And when we went to go and see the movie, I was like, yeah, you know, whatever. Couldn't give a fuck, Jones, honestly.
So I don't know. I think that No Time to Die kind of buggered me a little bit in the fanboy.
Didn't you? You got rudgered.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm, and this is something that is probably going to shock somebody in the audience, Babs, but I'm not sure how excited I am for the next Bond movie, and that's sad.
Well, I mean,
and this is really sad.
If they were to do a Bond movie where they've sort of gone back to roots and they haven't done all of the strange casting things that they're threatening to do, and they sort of go classic, right?
If Martin Campbell comes back and they cast somebody who I think is...
let's say it were Henry Cavill, right? And he... Wait.
Yeah.
And he really looked the part.
Yep. He does look the part.
Yeah, and he walks in and you hear the...
Oh, stop it. You're making
right? See, you would watch that trailer over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
So don't say that. Don't lie to the people. Don't lie to your listeners.
But when it comes to Star Wars, I feel like the story has been told.
Yeah.
And anything that comes after it, especially when it's sort of prequel style, is kind of superfluous.
Listen, it's cool that like you're getting an Obi-Wan and Vader sort of, thing there, but
it needs to be done well.
Isn't it supposed to be that the first time that they meet in all this time is on the Death Star?
Yeah.
Because they're like retconning a lot of things. It's like they're going to have to remake those movies now.
Lucas himself retconned.
Exactly. It's a problem. Why didn't he start with number fucking 1? I don't understand.
Yes. You know the meme about Yoda being in charge of numbering.
Right, yeah.
Anyway,
moving on.
It's not great. And I'm going to watch one more episode and then I
think you'll give up.
Yeah, I think so. Because, by that point, I'll probably say, well, you know what? There's only another couple of episodes left. I did feel like I was wasting time last week when I watched episode 3. I was just like, I could have been watching something else. Morbius.
Why? Why does this thing keep fucking popping up? Go on.
Much derided, and a film I have not yet seen, neither of you. Maybe we should do it for a podcast.
Oh, no.
Well, that's the point. Exactly the point. It was apparently re-released in theaters to a resounding toilet flush.
Who cares?
Exactly, that's what everybody else said. The movie's theatrical re-release comes shortly after a barrage of Morbius-related memes gained traction across social media.
What, so they thought that it was like, oh, let's ride that train?
Right, most notably the Power Rangers inspired "It's Morbin Time" parody catchphrase trended on Twitter for an entire week, and one dedicated fan streamed the movie repeatedly on Twitch until their stream was taken down.
The only reason to do that, the only reason to sort of rescreen it so quickly after its failed release is if somebody went in and changed every single shot to him to look like a Power Ranger.
I just think that
like a CG
Sony
Power
have
Ranger.
no sense of irony.
Right.
And that they would have continued making bad Spider-Man movies if Marvel hadn't linked up with them.
Yeah.
The Sony looked at this whole thing and said, oh, it's trending on Twitter. Maybe that means that people like it. No sense of irony whatsoever. I don't know. This movie has gotten more attention than it really should, and I'm adding to it now. That was movie news.
That was a very good movie. Movie news.
Movie news. A bit of movie news for you there.
My name's Gorg.
My name's Gorg. I'm made of rocks, as you can see.
But not a real circle. More like a freaky circle.
Piss off, ghost. Okay. So I wanted to read you the taglines for this movie because it's really a little bit too specific to play a tagline game.
Okay.
So
number 1.
Yeah, number 1, even nice people can go to hell.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about this a little bit.
She's not particularly nice.
Right, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later on. Actually, it's probably going to make up the bulk of this podcast. But my answer to that is she though?
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is, Christine Brown has a good job, a great boyfriend, and a bright future. But in 3 days, she's going to hell. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And it's all and it's on the poster.
That's not a very good tagline.
And it's on the poster. Just a picture of her being dragged down into hell, which is the finest shot.
I'm glad that we didn't do a tagline game, because I probably wouldn't have gotten either of them.
Yeah. So the poster is the final shot of the movie, which I always found to be slightly weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's wasn't there something that you're probably going to bring it up, but didn't Sam Raimi sort of talk about that? Like how, like I sort of read something about how they weren't hiding the fact that that was how the movie was going to end, and the movie was always going to end like that. And
funny, I didn't come across that in my trivia search, and I don't.
Could
remember...
I be making this up? I'm sure I read this somewhere.
It sounds plausible, but I also didn't have time yesterday to watch the special features on my Blu-ray.
But what's so interesting? We'll talk about it, but there's something about that ending that, even though it's sort of based in the title, in the poster, it's telegraphed all the way through the movie. Yeah, just knocks your socks off.
Yeah. Right? No, it still gave me the shivers, and I've seen it like 5 times.
Yeah. Okay. This is the second time I've seen this movie. I haven't seen it since we saw it in the cinema when it came out.
You know what? Actually, I might be exaggerating. It might be the 3rd time I've seen this movie, because I saw it in the cinema with you.
Probably saw it when you got it on Blu-ray.
No, I bought it on DVD.
Ew.
And the DVD never got watched, and I don't know why. Maybe because we're talking about 2009, and that was around the time that I started buying Blu-ray, and I had just bought a DVD, and I probably didn't want to watch it because I knew it would look ugly and compressed. And only recently did I buy the Scream Factory edition of the movie, which is like got a new transfer and like new special features and all the bells and whistles and whatever, and the unrated version. And the unrated version and the theatrical version, which I'm not sure was released together before. But anyway,
listeners,
digress.
you can wake up now. Go on.
Fuck you.
Fuck me indeed.
Which actually brings me to my next segment. You bastard. 6 degrees of killing Sean Bean, and here is the jingle.
You stupid bastard.
We don't actually have to wait. I don't know why you and I freeze like it's like. Do you remember that episode of Family Guy where they go back to the pilot and Stewie and Brian are watching the family, and then they're in the middle of talking and they go, "This reminds me of the time that blah blah blah," and they set up a cutaway, and then all of them just stand there waiting, and he's like, "Is this what we used to do when we were setting up a cutaway?" We don't have to actually wait. You cut those out. You put those in and move them around.
That's correct.
We're just odd.
If you're new or you missed the last episode, I use an online actor generator to pull out a random actor from the ether. And this actor then has to be connected via 6 degrees of killing Sean Bean to a person who has killed Sean Bean in a movie.
Can you explain what 6 degrees means to people who've never heard of 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon?
Right, so I believe I explained it last time, and if you haven't listened to that episode...
Go back and listen to it, you lazy sods. Right, Go on, let's go.
You need to connect the actor through movies that they've been in. So let's say you wanted to connect...
Do one from last week. Because actually, so in the last episode, previously... is that I really failed it. The pressure of the timer, and also not being very good at this sort of thing is like I can't call movie actors and their connections to all the movies that they've been in and their scene partners. Like I just can't do it as quickly as Johnny can do it, right? So, and I'm turning to the listener now. I'm pleading with you for your understanding. So it's very, very difficult for me. And
it was difficult for me as well.
Last week or so, we were sitting down on Saturday morning. We were having coffee, and we were playing the game like just by ourselves, and we did really well. Like we both managed it. So I think for me, the problem is not having 5 minutes to do it, and also
the microphone.
So today, right, you're going to give me my name, right, of an actor. I'm going to get up and walk away from the microphone and scream my thought process from across the room, right, thereby eliminating the need to look at you counting down and to look at the microphone. I think that's a viable strategy.
I think that's solid. That's a solid strategy. Do that. Okay, so I'll give you an example. For example, last week we had Tom Cruise. Mm-hmm. So I came up with a better idea last time, but doesn't matter. So Tom Cruise was in A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson, and then Jack Nicholson was in Wolf with Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle Pfeiffer was in What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford, who killed Sean Bean in Patriot Games. Mm-hmm. So
really, the key is to have a list of names of people who have killed Sean Bean, right? And then work backwards from there to the name of the person you got, really.
No, you got a list of the movies. You don't need a list of the actors who killed Sean Bean.
Okay.
But I mean, you're going to walk away from me, so you could cheat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm going to leave my phone here like a good boy.
Like a good little boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So your actor is...
This is absolute shit, this is. Go on.
Your actor is Billy Bob Thornton.
How the fuck am I supposed to do that? Okay.
You have 90 seconds.
90 seconds?
Yeah, as last time.
Okay, yeah.
And your time starts now.
Billy Bob Thornton. Halle Berry in Monsters Ball, who was with Pierce Brosnan, who killed Sean Bean in GoldenEye.
You crafty little bastard.
Motherfucker. You did that in 10 seconds.
Oh, I almost had an overreaction to something there.
Oh shit, it's my turn now.
Who'd you get?
Michael Madsen.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Michael Madsen to somebody who killed Sean Bean. My time starts now. Michael Madsen to Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. Uma Thurman to Ralph Fiennes. Yes. In. Fuck, I've
in the Avengers. Okay.
In the Avengers, yeah. Okay, Ralph Fiennes.
He was in James Bond, but he was not with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh my god!
But you could connect him to any English actor.
I got it. To
Liam
Neeson. Ralph Fiennes to Liam Neeson in Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson to. Fuck, I had it a second ago. No, I had it a second. Liam Neeson to Christian Bale in Batman Begins. Christian Bale killed Sean Bean in Equilibrium. Boom.
You crafty little bastard.
That was impressive. Good job.
And I was very, very calm about it as well.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I don't have that setting in my brain.
Was that enough? Was that enough degrees?
What do you mean? You have more?
No, were there too many degrees there, or did I? That was
how
all
many
right.
did you do? Count them off. You
okay,
did
Michael Madsen
to Uma Thurman to Ralph Fiennes
to Liam Neeson to Christian Bale to 6 degrees.
Yeah, you're good.
I got right on the cusp.
Yeah, right on it.
Right on it. Hi, dear listener. This is Johnny talking to you from the future. Once again, the clock has beaten me because I could have just gone Michael Madsen to Pierce Brosnan in Die Another Day, and Pierce Brosnan murdered Sean Bean in Goldeneye. In cold blood. That bastard. Just goes to show the timer really buggers one up, and also that no matter what actor you're looking at, you're probably closer to somebody who killed Sean Bean than you think. Anyway, back to the show. Well, that was You Bastard. 6 degrees of killing Sean Bean.
You stupid bastard.
You can stop doing the victory dance now, you smug bastard.
Hey, first of all, when you get it, you're a smug bastard.
Correct,
And
but
secondly,
in this case you won, because you got it in less degrees than I did.
I never win the game.
And in less time.
Can I have the thing? The crowd.
I believe I gave you that.
Thank you, crowd.
At the time.
Fuck all of you.
Today's movie is Drag Me to Hell, and here's a brief synopsis for those of you who haven't seen the movie, but I would suggest you do see the movie before listening to this podcast because we're going to spoil the shit out of it. Drag Me to Hell is the story of bank clerk Christine Brown, who, while trying to impress her boss and subsequently get a promotion, refuses an old lady an extension on her mortgage, effectively evicting her from her home. The old lady, Mrs. Garnush, begs Christine, but winds up humiliated when Christine refuses. Garnush curses Christine, who finds herself haunted by a demon called a Lamia. Desperate, Christine seeks the help of a fortune teller who takes her to a medium with first-hand experience of dealing with a Lamia, but unfortunately the previous customer was dragged to hell, so the outlook isn't good for Christine. After the seance claims the life of the medium, Christine's last-ditch attempts to pass the curse on seem to be successful. Unfortunately for her, in the last scene, this proves not to be the case, and in a twist of fate, she is ultimately dragged to hell. Do you want to talk about context?
Sure.
Why did I come out Josh Widdicombe just then?
Would you like to talk about context?
Go on.
Well, there's not a lot here. I remember... I mean, I can tell you all of the weird stuff that we've done regarding this movie. That sounds wrong. But like, so
okay.
we watched it in the cinema.
We did.
I was not expecting... Because I had not seen... the only Sam Raimi films that I'd seen were the Spider-Man ones.
Right,
So
you had
I
not
hadn't
seen any Evil Dead?
which I have now. And I didn't get the style, right?
I think squelchy is a good way to describe that.
Squelchy, cartoony, like it's stylized. It's
lots of speed ramps and Dutch angles and whip pans.
Yeah, I think that cartoony is a really good way to describe it, but
absolutely.
without squash and stretch. Like that's my it feels like an animated movie without all of the things that make animated characters look goofy and funny. Like, you know.
Actually, if you watch the scene where all of the objects come alive in Evil Dead 2, that's extremely cartoony. And the deer that's mounted on the wall is a puppet and
there are cartoony things like the goat and whatnot.
Army of Darkness as well, very cartoony.
The thing is that you tried explaining it to me. You tried describing the style to me before we went in.
How old were you in 2009?
I don't know, 18-ish?
18-ish. Yeah, that makes sense. 91, 2009. Yeah, that's math. Numbers.
My favourite.
Yeah. So you weren't too young to see the movie. And in any case, as we said in the cold open, it's PG-13. So even if you were a few years younger,
it didn't scare me. It was just, it was like there's a whiplash that you get from just how bonkers this film is. Like,
Right.
it's fucking I was watching it yesterday, and I sent you messages saying,
Yeah.
"This is bananas. This is crazy."
But you love the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, I love not bonkers or bananas in a bad way. Just like it's like, this is different.
Right.
It's very different. Like, it's not like, it's a horror movie, but it's not like any horror movie we've watched. Like it's not like The Conjuring or Insidious or something.
Yeah, where you actually
like
have
that.
Sympathy for the protagonist.
And not just that, just like the things that are happening to them are very sort of like, little children running from one room to another, and jump scares and whatever. This is like weird,
literally an arm down the throat.
Yeah, like the the old woman's dentures fall out, so she starts like trying to eat her without her teeth. It's really weird. It's fucking weird. She gets choked by a handkerchief.
Yep.
It's strange. And look, there's a lot of stuff about the movie that we like incorporate. What a lot of stuff. There's one line that we incorporated into another line in a film, which Johnny and I do this thing where sometimes, we'll start one line off and it will somehow merge into something else.
Yeah.
So
there was Marie the Baguette's Hurry Up from Beauty and the Beast ended up as the theme song from Rupert the Bear.
Right.
Now, don't ask me how that happens. It just does.
It just happens. Oh no, but also regular lines from films get ruined completely. Just like
Right.
Antonio Banderas from the Mask of Zorro. Right. Where he says, what's his face? Captain Love says to him, "If you'll excuse us, the lady and I were trying to dance." And he goes, "You were trying, she was succeeding." But over the years, it's become, "You were trying, she was succeeding." It just gets really freaking creepy. So I don't know why or how this happens.
Quantum of Solace.
Go on.
Quantum of Solace. No.
I said get in.
Okay. So the two things from Quantum of Solace, but the woman at the airline desk.
Nobody cares about this.
The woman at the airline desk. He leans down and he says, "You're going to get a phone call in a moment. Would you mind telling them I've gone to Cairo?" And she says, "I'd be happy to."
She just says, "I'd be happy to."
No, but she has like a little bit of a like
gurgle in
whatever,
her throat.
and we've turned it into.
It just gets worse. It just gets worse and worse. Anyway, so this movie's This movie's one was also a James Bond thing.
Yeah.
What was it? It was Die Another Day?
Die Another Day.
Yeah.
So in Die Another Day, M comes back to 007 after she's sort of like cut ties with him.
Yeah.
He's been disavowed, as it were.
Yeah.
And she comes back to him and she's like, we need you back, kind of thing. And he says, "You burned me, and now you want my help." And also that's another thing. Pierce Brosnan's voice, as time has gone on, has become a lot more. We've been doing it like that.
Yeah,
for years.
we've taken regular Pierce Brosnan quotes and turned them into that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you watch things like the torture scene in The World Is Not Enough, like he does,
he's gurneying.
Yeah,
a lot,
he's
doing
one last scream.
Yeah.
So Pierce Brosnan seemed the right fit for Mrs. Garnush when she says, "You shamed me,"
and then we just continue it with, "And now you want my help."
Random shit. You have to be one of us in order to appreciate
it. None of you fucking are still with us. You don't care.
Hello.
This whole time you've been going, "We
Hello?
don't care."
Is anybody still there?
What was that? 1,000 listens suddenly dropped down to 3.
I don't think they can take listens away from you.
They will after this.
Your listens have been revoked.
Your context, please.
By context. Pretty much the same thing. We went to the cinema. I thought it was absolutely bonkers and I loved it.
Started ruining lines from
it. But I remember that, like, at the time, we hadn't really gone to see a lot of horror movies in the cinema. And there weren't a lot of really good ones coming out at the time. So I remember we went to see things like My Bloody Valentine and Friday the 13th, like the remakes. There were a lot of movies like that coming out, and they weren't particularly very good. So you wanted to go to a movie where you could be sufficiently chilled, not necessarily like scared shitless, but sufficiently chilled, and that the jump scares, like nowadays it's, you know, a lot of horror movies just sort of rely blindly on a jump scare.
Well,
It's
but
just
now jump scares are considered cheap.
Right, exactly. But if they're done well, my God, you can jump 6 feet in the air in the cinema. Drag Me to Hell has at least 6 or 7 good jump scares, and they're really good ones.
Yeah.
And you kind of expect them, but I mean, it's as I said about Doctor Strange. Sam Raimi is me when I was a kid. He's the older brother that delights in scaring the shit out of his younger siblings or whatever it is, and he's pulling their pigtails.
He'll dangle the spider
in front of you and be like,
the spider. He'll dangle the spider on a string in front of the sibling.
Yeah. And it's he delights in doing that, and you can see in this movie he's just like probably sitting behind the Avid going you know, like putting this thing together. There are quite a few good jump scares, and so like being in the cinema and watching that kind of thing was really fun and refreshing to me. I really had a good experience watching this. I really enjoyed it, and there are things in this movie that make you go, oh God. And we were talking about The Boys before we started recording, and everybody's talking about this one scene in episode 1 of season 3. And there are a lot of things in The Boys that are kind of like, oh my God, my eyes. And this is no different. I mean, it's really kind of like, oh dear God, why are you doing that? So
is there a real reason behind that why though? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Other than just being
watch it and come back to me.
Thing to talk about.
Watch it and come back to me. The thing is that watching Drag Me to Hell yesterday, first of all, I watched it in October because we were going to do this for our first episode. Yeah. Because we started the podcast on Halloween, like around Halloween, which is why there are a bunch of like chiller movies as a couple of the first few episodes. Yeah. But we thought that maybe a straight horror movie like this might alienate people because it's kind of, you know, it's kind of random niche. And it's a little niche. But yeah, I mean, like, so I watched it in October, and I remember thinking, it's not as, you know, shocking as I remember. Yeah. It's more like, you know, humorous. Yeah. It's definitely disgusting. It's disgusting. Watching it yesterday with that episode of The Boys in my mind as context made me go, okay, this is tame.
So I was watching it and I wasn't scared. Like, he doesn't rely on a lot of jump scares in this movie. There are a few.
He doesn't rely on it, but he delights in it.
There's like the scene in the parking garage where the camera slowly pans around, following her gaze. You know, following the sort of handkerchief flying around. Yeah. And you can very clearly see Mrs. Ganush sitting in the back seat. Yeah. And she doesn't like jump forward or anything. She very slowly leans forward and she goes, "You shame me, and now you want my help."
Yep.
And oh boy, this is going to be a difficult episode for our listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning, okay?
Right. Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number.
So the opening scene is very atmospheric.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you see in the movie is somebody being dragged to hell.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And then you've got that sort of title sequence.
Child, no less.
And it's a child, yeah. And then you've got that title sequence that is, you know, all the kind of like, you know, sort of satanic books and like the images, the pictures, the drawings, like whatever, and that gorgeous Christopher Young score.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, like,
yeah.
Awesome. He does an incredible job, and he manages to break out of the Elfman shadow. I think it's a great score. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And yeah. So and you've got like the link to Jerry Goldsmith. Like it's very much inspired by The Omen. And I remember, like, you got those like choral voices and things like that.
Yeah.
And I remember watching an interview with Christopher Young where he talks about like Goldsmith's score for The Omen being a major influence, and that he does it in I believe on the Omen Blu-ray. There's just an entire interview just dedicated to Jerry Goldsmith, and it's Christopher Young just giving appreciation.
Really? See, that's really interesting because we don't have enough. Because you do get like VFX like sections on Blu-rays and behind the scenes and like whatever, but I don't see enough like stuff on composers and whatnot, like a whole thing dedicated to them.
Look, there
maybe
are
Hans
Zimmer and John Williams and Alan Silvestri. There's quite a few. Definitely the big guys get.
So maybe it's my problem. Like I don't seek those things out. But it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So then moving on, we're in the bank.
Yeah.
So what struck me here is how similar this bank looks to the one in Yes Man.
Yeah.
And how opposite the predicament that Christine has with giving too many yeses and now having to refuse a loan, with Jim Carrey refusing every loan and then having to suddenly say yes to everybody. I don't know. They came out more or less the same time, and they probably weren't connected to each other in any way. But it's this weird, tenuous connection that I made that I thought was very interesting.
You know, I was thinking exactly the same. Not that, but yesterday I was going, this bank looks exactly like the bank in Yes Man.
Yeah,
I was thinking that yesterday.
Yeah, and also the complete opposite that Rhys Darby is to David Paymer, the bank manager.
Right.
We're not going home.
Not really.
Not really. Yeah. So I want to talk in general about Christine's character, because she is our eyes and ears of this movie. Like she's our
protagonist.
She's our protagonist, right? But the issue is that she is not very likable. And Raimi gives you a little bit of context at the beginning. You see that she's very put upon. You see that this guy Stu is trying to get the promotion that she's after. You see that the sort of David Paymer and the sort of the bank manager and this guy Stu are kind of ganging up on her quite a lot. And she feels marginalized. She feels like, that she's a victim of sexism.
Yeah.
And so there is a certain amount of sympathy that you feel for her. Unfortunately, when it gets to the point where Lorna Raver's character, Mrs. Garnish, comes into the bank, that's it. Like and we're talking like maybe 10 minutes into the movie, I completely lose sympathy for her at that moment. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Mrs. Garnish is like coughing up phlegm, and she's putting her dentures on the table, and like there's all this like gunk and goo and all that, and it's very, very disgusting and whatnot. But at the end of the day, before you realize that she's in communion basically with a demon, you've got this poor innocent woman who has not been able to make the payments to on her house, and the bank is going to take her house away. They're going to foreclose, and Christine could give her an extension on the loan. Yeah. She could, and it's made clear twice in the movie that she could have given an extension on the loan. She goes into the bank manager's office and she says to him, what about this woman? And he says, your call. Like the bank is going to lose money on her, your call. And he's obviously like goading her and he's challenging her. And she thinks to herself, well, I need to get this promotion and I need to impress my boss. So I'm going to ruin this woman's life just for that. And it's a very like weak character decision. And I was thinking to myself, like, Raimi is asking you to put yourself in that position, in that dilemma. Would you make the same decision? And thinking about it, in all honesty, and I'm not being, righteous or anything like that. No, I would not. I would not make that decision. I would make the decision based on the paperwork, based on the facts, based on the the details of the case in front of me.
No, but also you're a human and you're able to
and the person sitting in front of me, I would not make it based on whether or not I will get a promotion.
So there are some things here that I definitely agree with you on and that I disagree on. Like I think that she obviously could have, and it is made clear that she could have given her the extension and like all of that stuff. But there's like having worked as a manager like in an office where I've had to sometimes say no to someone who really needs or wants a raise or something because their ratings just don't match what they need in order.
Right.
It doesn't, but like I could go to, the head office in Tel Aviv and I could really fight the case, but like, it's like I don't believe that person really deserves it or something. So like, I'll make that decision, but it's like,
yeah, but that's an educated decision.
That's an educated decision based on my knowledge of who that person is and what their scores are and how they perform in the job. And there have been the opposite as well, where someone has deserved it and they haven't gotten it, and I've gone to head office. Like, this is many years ago when I was working in an office as a manager and whatever. But like now I hate the idea of that. But it's like when you're working as think about it, like she's a career woman. This is her career. Like it's not like just a job that she could say, well, nothing's worth this. Like, like I'll find something else. She's putting all of her hopes and dreams on this, and she wants, approval from everyone, from her boyfriend's parents and all of that thing. So not justifying her actions, but saying Sam Raimi does put you in this position where you can understand why, like, people can be weak. People can be like, there's even a thing later where she lies that it was like her boss. Okay. Yeah. But that, again, that didn't vilify her for me. Like, I think that we are all shades of grey and black and white and all of that.
I just think that in this particular situation, she handled it very, very badly.
She
and
did.
She could have,
she handled it like a person, like a human being. She
starts like begging. She gets down on her knees, and what a nice, considerate human being would do is get down on her knees with her and say, please come sit back down and we'll see what we can do. But no, she's like completely, no, I'm not going to give you anything because I want this promotion. I want my boss to see me as a contender.
Yeah, and I'm not saying she's a good person. I'm not saying that she's but there's this sort of thing that it felt like when I was watching it yesterday, where I was like, it's almost like a fully... This would be something that someone decides to do, and that doesn't necessarily make them the bad guy in the film. It makes them a little bit shitty because they're looking out for themselves, but you can understand how a person would do that because people do that. It's like, listen, in The Last of Us and Last of Us 2, you are constantly, and in many games, you're constantly doing things that the developers want you to be doing. They're pulling you along this path, and sometimes the things that your character is doing are deplorable acts, not because they're bad people, but because they're put into situations where they feel, not that they have to, but they feel that they have to, right? And that's a very important distinction, and it's a game that the game makers are playing with your conscience, and it's the same thing that Sam Raimi's doing. He's like saying to you, she doesn't have to do this. She feels like she has to do this. And you have often done things that you feel like you have to do. Maybe not on this scale, but it's a thing that you can identify with. So it's a very interesting balancing act of maintaining her as the protagonist and not necessarily anti-heroing her or making her into a bad guy or a villain or something like that. She's a very flawed woman with problems. She's got issues. And that's something that I actually really enjoyed watching.
So this is what I was talking about. So basically what horror movies normally do is they either present the female as the victim or the heroine. There's a very clear set of characteristics to those characters generally. And you're supposed to be completely on board. Like, boogeyman bad, girl running, screaming,
it's all
good.
Black and white.
And in this case, Raimi is asking you to sympathize with somebody who, to me, like, despite everything you just said, is a weasel. I think she's a complete weasel. I think that she's spineless, and I think that like, she will do anything to get ahead and she'll do anything to survive. And it develops during the rest of the movie. For example, like in the fight in the garage, when she thinks that she's beaten her, she screams, "I beat you, you old bitch!" Yeah, and she starts laughing maniacally. Yeah. Now you could say that that's kind of a release of tension, but at the same time, you sort of in situations like that, you kind of reveal your true self. Yeah. And that to me is like, that's her true face. I beat you, you old bitch. It's not like, I'm sorry, I can make this right, I can fix it. It's, I beat you, you old bitch. Ha 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 ha.
No, but that's not her motivation. Her motivation is not to fix what she did wrong to her. Her motivation is to get the curse off her.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Instead of trying to fix what she did and get the curse off her that way, she believes that she is in the right.
She's the victim, and that Ganush is the bad guy.
Right, exactly.
And the monster.
Right. And it's just very interesting because there is a fear, around Mrs. Ganush. Like, Raimi does make you afraid of her. Mm-hmm. She makes you afraid of the demon, which is the Lamia.
Well, she's also, like, she's creepy looking. She's got, like, crazy hair. Yeah. She's got a one miscolored eye.
Right.
She's got these weird teeth. She's coughing up phlegm. Like, she's very monster-y. But if you think about who she is, actually, she's just an old lady.
Right.
Right. But she's the whole thing is that they cast this beautiful blonde as the lead in the movie, and she's very clean, and she's very sort of and she wears like nice sort of like button down shirts to work and dresses during the rest of the movie, whatever. Mm-hmm. And this old woman who is wearing like raggy kind of like not like the nicest things, and she's sort of hunched over. So there's a lot of like design decisions, right? Visual decisions.
I remember
that are drawing your eye and your conceptions and your biases into a specific place.
So that still.
Is it biases? It is, right?
Biases?
Is it
biases?
Biases? I'm really sorry. I don't know. Sorry, go on.
Okay. Get answers on a postcard, please.
On a postcard
the broom cupboard.
To the little dungeon under the stairs where we keep Simon.
So that still that was doing the rounds of Mrs. Ganush like screaming and pointing. Yeah. So that was the first still I saw of the movie, and it was in an Empire or something like Empire or a Total Film or something like that. I saw that in like 2008, and I went, that looks incredible. I didn't know anything else about it. It said Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell will be released, blah 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 blah, and it's about a gypsy curse or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And that image was all that there was aside from that little description. And I thought, Sam Raimi, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously there's a very iconic look. And I love the look of her and everything. The funny thing is,
it's inverted though. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that
the real monster is like
I don't think that obviously the monster is like the Lamia, right? That's the monster. That's what's chasing her. That's what's haunting her.
But Raimi is asking you to look inward. He's asking you to look at the monster within.
Exactly.
And it's really
Human
uncomfortable.
nature.
Exactly how much he puts her in the driver's seat.
And he also puts her. He puts
you in the driver's seat with
realistic situations. Like, I'm not talking about being drowned by rain in a grave and all that, and shoving a envelope down a corpse's mouth. But there's something about like the mundanity of the bank and the bank loan job, right? And the mundanity of a dinner at the in-laws or the potential in-laws and things like that are very it's only about like halfway through the movie when we start like really getting some shadows of a goat man, it's a ramp up, and there's a lot of mundane things that are going on. But just on the subject of like her character arc, she does ultimately, at the end of the day, make the decision not to just pass it on to somebody else.
She tries to,
but she goes, not even you deserve this. Like, I don't know anybody who I could do this to. And that is, in my opinion, a kind of redemption, as it were. Like, she had every opportunity to just like drop it in somebody's post box or in their house or in someone's handbag,
because it needed to be presented as a formal gift.
Right. So, so she could have gone to anybody and just said like, I'd like to give you this, whatever.
She tried to give it to Harry Osborn's butler in the cafe.
Right. She tried to give it to a few people. And she had this opportunity to give it to her worst enemy, right? Someone who makes it, and she's like, I can't do that. So there's like a little bit of a turnaround there, but like,
I see what you're saying.
Do I think that she deserved what she got? I don't think so. I think that was rather violent.
Look, I mean, there was definitely a.
I don't think she was a villain to the point where she was killing people.
Right, of course not. But
with a machete.
Yeah, I did think about this. I remember thinking about this back in October when I watched it. Was that
with a false beard on her face?
She's deplorable, but is the whole
just
sort
a
of
question?
curse
You can
thing,
let us know on Facebook. How many of you, when he said deplorable, thought of Treasure Planet and went adorable? Continue.
Not me.
Not you, but I'm sure that
No.
there are people.
So yeah, she's not the nicest person, but obviously the punishment is kind of disproportionate.
Yeah.
The actual sort of dragging to hell and whatnot, but the fact is that presented with all of this this stuff that's going on, that all of these things that are happening to her, the intensity of the events that take place, she doesn't ever let up. She's always lying. She's always lying about it. And quite frankly, at some point, you just need to say, you know what? I did it. Is there any way that I can get out of this now?
Doesn't she say that to Ganesh's daughter? Like at some point?
No, she doesn't.
She says to her, "You come in here and you lie to me," and she sort of like looks down and she cops to it without actually saying anything. Like, she's been caught, so she stops lying.
So that was the thing, and she says to Ganesh's daughter, my bank manager wouldn't let me,
and she's like, "You would lie to me," and then she's like,
"Yeah,
like
because
she does."
Was caught.
Yeah, she was caught, but like, doesn't she then say, "Can't you help me anyway?"
Right. So. Okay, moving on. I mean, this we can have this conversation for the next couple of hours. I don't want to bore everybody. Times are wasting. Yeah. So there are a few really great fortune-telling scenes. Like the first fortune-telling scene is great. I love the cycling shadows that sort of rotate in the room. The wind, every time, like in a movie where you see like somebody's hair ruffling in the wind or whatever due to some kind of supernatural force. I love that shit. I don't know why. It's very 80s, but I love that. And the devil jump scare. That's just great. I really enjoy that. And then obviously coming to the to the seance scene, which we'll get to a little bit later. Like all of that stuff is just, I mean, like Raimi really knows how to build atmosphere.
Yeah,
and
the whole atmosphere of the movie is so much fun to be in. Like it's like a lot of great visuals and a lot of great music and sound effects and moments and lingering on something for a minute and then leaving it and then coming back to it. Like there's a lot of great moments that are just punctuated by this very thick atmosphere of cartoon horror, which is really, really fun.
Right.
And like also the close quarters of like it's almost like Sam Raimi is like saying she's not actually safe anywhere. Like she's not safe in her car, and
she's not safe in her own bed.
She's not safe in the bed. She's not safe in her house. She's not safe in a seance. She's not safe. She's not safe anywhere in the street. But before we move on to talking about the seance, can we just talk about Justin Long?
Justin Long, friend of the show.
We wish,
yeah.
I fucking love him, but I also love his character in this movie. He's such a like he is the example of the good person, right?
Yeah,
like he's a really good person.
Like you don't believe, like the thing is that he's there to
he's with her,
right? But the thing is that he's there to kind of balance her out and to sort of be the voice of reason kind of thing. And but you would think that if he was in her position, he wouldn't have handled it like that,
Yeah, he wouldn't.
Right, but he also probably wouldn't have been marginalized for being a woman.
But there is that. First of all, yes, really well spotted. The thing that I wanted to point out about their dynamic, right, is that I think that Sam Raimi's, and this is just what I think, is using Justin Long as this sort of paragon, of light, in order to sort of say, like, if he's with her, right, and we're seeing her in this moment in her life, there must be something else that we don't know. Like she, maybe she's not always been like this. Maybe this is a, like it's almost like, he must, there must be good in her to attract this kind of person. And there's like a sympathy that you feel, or that I felt for that sort of like, okay, well, she's not always been this turd.
So there you go. The sympathy is from like it's a split second shot that kind of sets up and explains a lot of the stuff that happens to her, which is the pork fair photo that you see her at a pork fair in what is it, in this, like on the farm or something, like where she grew up, and she's chubby. And you can see that she's been through this long arduous journey of sort of getting thin, and she's really skinny in the movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that Ganush does to her is like sort of taunting her for being, like a former fat kid, basically. And also like somebody mentions that, the Ganush's daughter or granddaughter, I can't remember.
I don't remember.
But she says that you were a fat kid, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do that when you're fighting? That pose you do when you're fighting.
Yeah, why are you Russian exactly?
With the hair, with the arm, with the hair and the arm. You're posing. You're poser. I
Sorry,
like.
Johnny just had a stroke. I apologize.
I really liked Black Widow, and I like Yelena.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a certain amount of sympathy there, but she keeps doing things that make me hate her. The lying and the
I
trying
never
to.
hated her. I was like. She's low. She's a low person.
Yeah.
And it's like I at no point was I going,
So
you know what? I'm on the Lamia's side now.
I kind of was, but anyway,
Really?
I'm gonna go through the a few things that I really liked. This is the point where I just there's so much stuff that I've written, and I'm just gonna start reading my notes.
Okay.
So the shot when she goes down the stairs in Ganush's apartment into the wake,
Yeah.
like there's a guy behind her that goes and like sort of pulls her into the wake. That I thought when I first saw that it was a dream, that she'd gone into some kind of like trance or something. It's just really well done. I love that. I love the fact that the photo of Ganush that's like sort of above the coffin kind of follows her.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. The Ganush's dummy that is used like several times, like they use the same mold. It's probably like 6 or 7 dummies, but like they use the same mold for all of them. It doesn't really look like Lorna Raver, and it's kind of janky. And also when it's like flailing around on top of her, it looks
really janky.
It looks like a doll.
Yeah.
They only had like $30 million for this movie. It made 90, but the
they
budget.
couldn't have just gotten the actress to come and jump on top of her.
I'm not sure, because like I'm not sure what they wanted to put her through, to be honest. They didn't mind putting Alison Lohman through it, but but Lorna Raver, I'm sure
she must have been exhausted at the end of
yeah. There's more.
Don't really have to be here, do I? Don't have to give opinions about anything. You just got all of my opinions written down there, haven't you? Fine, sit here and let you do it. Go on, Johnny. Tell us what time it is. Go on.
Yeah. The cloven hooves under the door. I love that.
Go on.
Ganush in the phone.
Ganush in the phone?
Yeah. So 2009 we had flip phones with like little screens, and she sort of appears on one of the screens and goes,
right. Yeah.
The dinner scene where she meets Clay's parents, Clay played by Justin Long, is excruciating. And by the way, that is Molly Cheek, who is Jim's mom from American Pie.
Oh.
Yes. The scene in the garage where she's like where she's searching for things to sell so that she can pay off the medium. There's a great jump scare. There's a couple of really bad dummies in there.
Yeah.
And some ropey CGI, which is the eyeball kind of popping out.
Mate, yeah.
So I didn't think that the scene needed to be there, but I liked the kind of ramping pans of her like kind of clocking the things that she can use in order to crush her, and then she sees like randomly in her garage an anvil just kind of
that's what I mean
there.
by cartoon.
Yeah.
It's so Roadrunner. The whole thing where the anvil comes down and the eyeballs one flies into her mouth. It's like
I wish that would have been... I mean, I think it's really commendable that they were still using dummies in 2009. There are certain things that should have been practical, like the eyeball flying into her mouth should have been practical.
Could have been practical, for sure.
And then it would have been much more squelchy and much more ew. Yeah. But to me, I'm looking at it and I
by
go,
the way,
that's CGI.
Yeah, the problem with this CGI is that it does that particular shot, it doesn't actually look like it's going into her mouth.
Yeah.
There's no real occlusion there. It's like there's something very, very off about it. And also it doesn't look like it's sitting in the scene. It hasn't been composited very well. Like, it's very clearly CGI, and it looks very janky. Practically, that would have just been gross, and it would have left slime trails behind when it popped back out again. It would have been gross.
Yes, it would have been better if she would you would have seen a close up of her mouth going. Blah,
there's a lot of that in the movie of discharges coming from people's mouths.
God, the maggots.
Yeah, maggots are gross. Yeah.
There's a scene that we didn't talk about, which is the nosebleed in the bank.
Right.
So it's really funny because I kind of like laughed out loud at this. The like she starts having this nosebleed, and then it starts gushing, and then it starts like really
Exploding
like
outwards,
sort of projectile, gushing, and the bank manager's going, stop it, and I just found that really funny because it's like obviously she's not
in control,
doing it on purpose. So yeah, that was amusing. That's a little Sam Raimi touch for you there. The seance. We've come to the seance. I love this scene.
It's great. Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the cinema and thinking this is the best thing ever. So the medium's name is Sean Sandena, played by Adriana Barazza, so basically her house is like, you've got this kind of like almost, I'm not sure if it's a pipe organ kind of a sound effect that they put on there, but there's definitely like the establishing shot is definitely very gothic.
Yeah.
And it's kind of half a gothic house that you would sort of associate with like Hammer or Dracula or that kind of thing, and half a hacienda. Yeah. So I just love the kind of like
there's a great mix of
the combination of like gothic hacienda there. I love that. And the seance scene is like Sam Raimi going, okay, now it's on.
Yeah.
You've got like the sort of the ghosts that come in, and then she banishes them, and they're like straight into the camera. Yeah. You've got the various different people getting possessed, and the goat getting possessed. Just like it's just a brilliant scene.
All really,
it's
really
really
like
atmospheric and like the design.
As well, it's the cat coming out of the guy's mouth.
I don't want your cat.
Yeah, it's just really La Mia. Brilliant.
It's brilliant. I love it. And here she is, like faced with this demon, and she's still fucking lying. It wasn't me. It was my bank manager, Mr. Jacks. Like, come on.
It's a demon. It knows when you're lying.
It knows.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's a question.
Yes.
She knows that he said, it's your call. We know that no one made her. But honestly now, he did sort of present it to her as like, if you make this call, we're going to leave you where you are and you're not going to move forward. And, he kind of did back her into a corner. It's from her perspective, I'm saying. From her perspective, right? I'm not saying actually. We've already established that actually she could have done something else.
Right.
But, her in her view, he did make her. She doesn't think she had any other choice.
Right.
So from her perspective, she's not lying.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's another way of thinking about it. That's all.
It's an interesting
argument. All about, if you were to take a movie where there's a villain, right? And I'm not talking about moustache twirling villain. Even this movie. And you were to flip everything around and watch it from that...
Sorry.
And watch everything from that character's perspective, and suddenly they're the protagonist, right? It's like, do you know what I mean? Like you can kind of see how that works in this case. Like if you just like take what she's, from her point of view, the Jedi are evil. No, from her point of view. Are you with me? Like, do you know what I mean? Like when you take like a villain in a movie and you like turn the movie around and you were to look at it from their perspective, you might start sympathizing with them.
I get exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yes.
Moving on. Seance was great. I love the CG goat. Really funny.
The CG goat, yes. I really enjoy the cemetery scene as well. I think that's just, really great. Even with the sort of the crappy dummy that kind of just bobs there in the water. It's kind of like a wonky Tim Burton cemetery, and you can see the matte painting in the background, the CGI matte painting, but it's like, it's so atmospheric. It's almost, it's sort of deliberately heightened in that way. So I don't know. I really enjoy that. I really like the MacGuffin of the button.
Yes.
And the way that
it's such a simple object. Like it's such a mundane, being the word to describe like, the supernatural versus the mundane. Yeah.
So so Ram Jazz is the medium, and he says to Christine after the seance, you know what you could do? If you wanted to be really morally ambiguous, you could pass that thing on and then you curse some innocent person. Like, think of somebody you really hate, Christine. Who do you really dislike?
Well, he was saying to her, like, I didn't want to tell you about this because, you know, then
the shit
I
that's
would be
happening
an
to you,
accomplice.
and I would be an accomplice, and the shit that's happening to you is then going to happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
You're passing the curse on. But anybody paying attention knows that there is a vintage coin in a white envelope that she gives to Justin Long at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And Ram Jazz gives her the button in a white envelope. So it's like it's really obvious, and I sort of sussed it out like when in October when I watched it. I sussed it out, and you know, remember I hadn't seen this since 2009, and I was like, okay, that's obviously they're gonna mix up the envelopes. But also like remembering the final shot, there's no way that she actually succeeded in passing the curse along. But yeah, I just I love that tiny little object that gives her that little bit of hope, and you have that sort of triumphant scene where she shoves the envelope down Ganesh's corpse's throat and says, you know, choke on it, bitch, or something like that. And I just think that that she needs to have that kind of moment of triumph so that it's a shock to her. Right. You know, when like that kind of that moment, I always think of it as the bass drop moment, like in Fight Club, when Helena Bonham Carter says, Tyler Durden, you fucking freak, what's going on? And he goes, we have just lost cabin pressure. And that's that moment when Justin Long is like, you look so beautiful, you got such a good heart. Does she though? Like he's like, you know, I love you so much, and I want to, like, you know, I want to propose to you, and I got this ring and whatever. And then, oh, by the way, you left this in my car. Well, it's like, it's a button. Yeah. And you see that look on that dawning of realization on her face, of like, doing. Yeah, she's like, I'm fucked. Yeah, that's it. It's all over. And then she walks backwards, falls onto the track. So the final shot. What sells it for me? I mean, I love the CGI demons. I love her being dragged down. I love her sort of turning all like veiny and whatever. But
her eyes, like her eye sockets, like you know.
The thing that sells it for me is Justin Long's reaction to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you've got this.
He looks horrified.
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot of times he's playing the comedy sidekick. He's got the humor, like he's always spitting out these improv lines and whatever, and he does that a lot in this movie as well. But the entire movie, he's sort of built up as this rational guy, and he's the voice of reason, and he's sober and professorial, and etc.
He's also saying to her, like, you know, I don't believe in any of this stuff.
I don't believe in any of this stuff.
I get it that you do, so I'm here to help you.
Exactly.
And suddenly he's faced with, oh shit, she was telling the truth, and I could have like done more as well.
But he sells that realization of like, oh my god, I'm really seeing this. He sells it so well. It gives me chills. That's what gives me chills. Is him. And it's just like,
also her screams.
Yeah, her screams. But like that shot of him is like that. There, he's an excellent actor. Yeah, you know, he's just a really good actor.
He is an excellent
and
actor.
He doesn't overplay it. It's so restrained.
Incredible.
There's nothing more that I can say about that. But he's just excellent. A couple of notable mentions: the staple flying at the camera.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this honorable mention time?
Honorable mentions, yeah. Alexis Cruz plays the dad in the first sequence in the prologue, and he is the kid from Stargate, the native kid from Stargate. Right. Chelsea Ross plays Clay's dad, and he's the drill sergeant from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and the lieutenant from Basic Instinct. Just in case anyone is wondering who him out of that thing is. Apparently Sam Raimi cameos as one of the ghosts in the seance scene. I did not spot him, and
I read about that.
I read about it, and I didn't spot him. The Oldsmobile, which makes an appearance in every single Sam Raimi film, is Mrs. Ganesh's car, and that's basically it. Should we go to Trivia Corner?
Sure.
Trivia Corner. Okay, Alison Lohman did most of her own stunts.
Joss Stone is a vegetarian. No, go on.
All cornflakes are made in the USA. Well, another one of those tomorrow.
Every flake of corn.
Lamia is actually a bogey woman from Greek mythology who stalks the countryside looking for children to devour. It was a story used to get young children into their beds at bedtime. In order to avoid an R rating, a few of the scenes involving a lot of blood had to be trimmed down. The extended versions of these scenes are in the unrated cut. So we're talking like a grand total of 11 seconds here. That's okay.
Didn't realize
I think
that
it's
11
mostly-
seconds makes the difference, really.
It's mostly the cat, I think.
Funnily enough, blood is not the biggest problem in this movie.
No, it is not. Before deciding to direct the film himself, Sam Raimi asked Edgar Wright to direct.
Oh, that would have been so different.
However, it would have been very different. However, Wright was busy with production on Hot Fuzz, and he felt that he wasn't the right director for this movie. Yeah.
I agree.
Yep. Sam Raimi's friend Bruce Campbell, who appeared in some fashion in every other film Raimi directed, turned down a role because he was busy with his TV show Burn Notice. Ganush family are Hungarian gypsies. Sam and Ivan Raimi have Hungarian Jews among their ancestors.
Oh.
Yes. The Drag Me to Hell idea actually comes from a couple of different folklore stories. The Furies, or Urins, really, were figures of vengeance in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
I'm probably not pronouncing that right. When summoned by people who were wronged or victimized in some way, they would wreak vengeance on the wrongdoer for a period of time until they killed themselves, and then torture and terrorize them in the underworld. The Drag Me to Hell idea also comes from Krampus, a pre-Christian figure in Germany and Austria who accompanies St. Nicholas on the eve of December 6th, St. Nicholas Day. While St. Nicholas would reward good children with gifts, Krampus would drag wicked children to the underworld. Both of these helped inform the vengeful Lamia character in the movie. Why did parents used to terrorize their children
With stories
like that? Fuck me.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
The soft spot for Greek mythology.
Alison Lohman stated to the Daily Record that shooting the film was such hard work that she had to drink shots of tequila every night just to get some sleep. Well, I can understand that. Yeah. The maggots that Mrs. Garnish throws up on Christine
is pasta.
It is pasta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking, yes, I was like, that looks more like pasta than it does maggots.
30 million. It's not enough. The film is the only PG-13 rated horror film directed by Sam Raimi. And I've written in brackets, not anymore, because you could argue that Doctor Strange is also somewhat of a horror film.
Yeah.
Clay, played by Justin Long, can be seen using various products by Apple Inc. In real life, Long is a spokesperson for Apple's I'm a Mac advertising campaign. Running gag. When something horrifying happens, objects or fluids end up going into Christine's mouth in a dramatic fashion.
Yeah.
No shit. To prepare for her role as Mrs. Ganush, Lorna Raver worked with a Hungarian dialect coach. Raver asked the coach to translate portions of the script into Hungarian. This came in handy because director Sam Raimi asked Raver to use some of the Hungarian words in the scenes where Mrs. Ganush torments and attacks Christine. She says "saya" a lot, which means bitch or whore or something like that. So like there are a few things like I remember watching the behind the scenes, and there's a bit in the parking garage where Sam Raimi sits down with Lorna Raver and he says, what Hungarian swear words did you learn or something like that? And she's like, well, maybe I could use saya, it means bitch, and he's like, okay, use that, do that. Like, I love watching him on set because he gets really excited. He's like a little kid.
Oh, that's gonna freak her out. Yeah, do that.
Yeah, do that. Critics complained that this was a misogynistic backlash type warning to women not to be too ambitious. This is interesting. That women have to stay in the helper servant type mode, and if they try to get competitive or flex a little corporate strength in the office the way men do all the time, they will get sent to hell.
Honestly, if the protagonist would have been male, then the complaint would have been, why aren't there more female protagonists in movies? So either way, you can't fucking win. It's like, no, that's not the point. We're not, no one is saying that. And it's just so annoying to me because no one is fucking saying that. It's like, I could make anything up from this, though. Well, don't be a good boyfriend because your girlfriend's probably a bitch and is going to get dragged to hell. Like, obviously, that's not true. But, like, it's so fucking stupid. Why do people... Oh, I'm calm.
You're right there. Basically, the point is that somebody somewhere is going to be offended by something sometime.
Yeah, but it's more than that. It's that it feels like people are always looking for these things. Look... There is no shortage of these problems that we can look at, but to keep on assigning them to every single thing that we see is infuriating to me.
Yeah.
Because that's not what the movie's trying to say, and at no point was it trying to say that. In fact, it's saying sometimes when you're faced with an impossible decision, right, you're still going to have to do that thing because your own survival will usually trump that thing that everybody says is the right thing to do, right? That your conscience or that the societal conscience is saying to you to do, right? And it's asking a very, very interesting question. And the fact that, okay, this movie came out in 2009, right? That critics were saying that. Right, and that was their fucking problem, and that movies that come out now have the same issues, and it's like you're always going to have something to can't a movie just be a fucking movie? I enjoyed the movie. This character wasn't the best person. They were completely flawed, but you know what? They weren't flat. They weren't two-dimensional, and it was interesting to watch. By the way, why is there such a problem with the fact, right, that I enjoyed a movie because it was a movie, and it didn't have to be fucking Schindler's List?
And that was Trivia
Corner. Feel free to cut all of that out. I just needed to release some tension, I think.
Right then.
Apparently that's a trigger for me.
Shall we go down into the basement or the attic or wherever it is we're going?
It is now. Right, okay. Right. So last time, I said a wrong word. And we didn't notice it when they said it. Neither of us did. But our mother picked up on it. And I went over to visit them. And she said, "What's a cavalcade?"
Soda.
So she's like, "What's a cavalcade?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What is a cavalcade?
What is it? Cavalcade?
And she's like, "Yes, but that's not what you said." And I'm like, "Did I say cavalcade?" She's like, "Yeah, go back and listen to it." And I did. And I was listening to it in the car. And I was like, "Oh, fuck me." So today we're going to try and get it right. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
Come with me and step into the spine-tingling confusion known as Sigh's rambling cavalcade of nonsense.
Okay.
Bruce Jones was the VFX supervisor for this movie. Now, there's this website called BruceJonesProductions.com, and there's a lot of information there about things that Bruce Jones has worked on in this movie. So a lot of what I've written here is actually from there, and I've just sort of passed through the information so that, I don't just have to read off several pages. So there were literally hundreds of visual effects in the film, and different effects houses were used. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but in the film, the supernatural, the unseen, Jones considered it another character. So sequences were even developed in post-production that would suggest the presence of the supernatural. And they kept on adding it, and they did it with sound effects as well. And it was a very ongoing, and he described it as an organic process. That it wasn't that all of the supernatural moments were sort of plotted. They were discovering them and adding them in post, throughout all these different things. So I thought that was pretty cool. Seeing where they could sort of plonk those moments. That's pretty fun. Just a small note, just from my own opinion on the VFX in the movie. I think that they're actually really well done. We were watching. You posted a picture of the goat on Facebook, and I said to you, "Is that what it looks like? I don't remember it looking like that. That is ridiculous. It's like Sonic the Hedgehog creepy, right?"
Yeah.
And you said in context, it's meant to be like that.
Is it CGI or is it a puppet? Because there are certain shots that are a puppet.
I think it's CGI because there are moments where its mouth is moving and its eyes are moving in a way that suggests that it's not a puppet.
So I have here in Trivia Corner that I missed, a puppet goat was used in the dialogue scenes for the seance sequence.
Really? Then it's a really
there may have been a couple of CGI shots.
There could have been tweaks there that they did in post.
Yeah, but
there's something there that looks like digital to me.
Right. So
if I'm wrong, I'm really impressed.
The goat really reminds me of that deer head in Evil Dead 2.
So it's very hard to get an or a puppet or an animatronic to articulate in a way that doesn't look animatronic, and so it's just interesting to me that that you say that, because I was convinced that particular shot was CG because of the eyes and the way that the nose moves.
It may have been enhanced.
It may not have been, now that you've said that. Anyway, so Jones had a small effects team on hand that he could, on set, that he could sort of do quick composites to sort of make sure things look good. And I always think that's very, very important, that even in a small budget movie, that the VFX supervisor should be on set during VFX. It's not, of course. Like, we've worked on things,
Yeah,
here.
but we've worked on
where-
things that are tiny, and in Hollywood, 9 times out of 10, I do see the visual effects supervisor on the set.
I see a lot of indie stuff where VFX artists are doing things on the fly on like a strong gaming laptop or something, like, just doing it there to sort of see if everything's working.
Yeah.
There's a quote here from Jones where he said it's great to have that feedback for take 2. You see it and you say, for example, maybe we should be panning into this shot instead of it being static, or maybe we need a different dolly move here, and it really allows them to like tweak it. And obviously now that's sort of he is saying here this is going to be the way of the future, and it is.
Right.
But I think it's really cool that they were doing that then. Near the end of the film, Christine is in a train station with her boyfriend, and she realizes that the curse is still on her. So she backs back away from Justin Long's character, and she falls onto the tracks. And the train bears down on her, and arms burst through the railroad and grab her and pulling her down into hell.
Right.
So there's a lot of complicated things here. There's like a strobe effect that's happening on the train tracks. There are like 20 shots in this sequence.
It's really cool that you see it through
the train tracks, which is really hard to do. Think about the masking they had to do, the compositing.
The motion blur.
The motion blur, getting it right.
Yeah.
So there's, in addition to the train, the tracks, Loman, the elements that needed to be put in there were flame, sparks, smoke, heat ripples, all of these things. 2009, like, it's not like the easiest of things like to pull off. Even now it's hard to pull it off and make it look good. The filmmakers built a box on the stage for the shots on the tracks, and the actors below the set wore green suits that covered them except for their arms, so that they could get that working with the creepy arms.
I love seeing like behind the scenes shots of that kind of thing with all the like stockinged arms, like.
Yeah, exactly. And Jones said that the script it called for light beams to burst from the holes, shooting up into the scene. And he said that kind of underlighting in actual plate photography is very difficult to do using visual effects techniques. So they needed to build that into practically on the set. And they aimed some high intensity lamps down below. And the lighting team were underneath holding pieces of mylar, which we've talked about, like, this silvery reflective material. So that light that was bounced off this stretchy silver material was sort of creating an undulating, cascading sort of firelight on her, and it was like a very simple solution that didn't require time or money, and it worked really well. And if you look at that final shot, it's really good.
Right.
Like, it's also so this is a great case of. And I'm really glad that this website exists, and I think there should be more like that on movies, like, just where they describe the processes, because it makes my job a lot easier when I'm like researching this stuff. But also, the information's there for other people who are making movies and don't have a Hollywood budget, that they can kind of think creatively around. That's also why I like Film Riot so much. That YouTube channel is great because it's so innovative in the way that they make their visual effects, and the use of practical and only doing things visual effectively that they can't do otherwise. But that's it. That's the end of my babbling, rambling nonsense cavalcade. But there's a lot of moments in the movie where CG is employed, and as we've said about the eyeballs, it doesn't work so well. I think the decision to spend more time on the VFX on that final shot, as it is the lingering thing that you're left with, it's really important. So I'm okay with some of the bum VFX shots earlier in the movie. And also, now that you're saying that the goat is probably practical, like that just makes me happy. Somehow. Yeah, it really does, because anything that can be done practically, I'm in. Yeah. And that's it. That's
very good. So I really enjoyed this.
I did too. I think there was a great discussion there.
Yeah.
I maybe lost it a little bit. I don't know if Johnny's going to leave that in, but there was a little bit of a rant there that I sort of lost myself there.
Oh, yeah, it's in.
Oh dear.
Which bring us to the next.
You're Goldbluming.
I'm Goldbluming. Yeah, sorry. So we, if you hadn't,
shit.
yeah, which I hope we're not going to say next week when we go to see Jurassic World Dominion. Yeah.
I'm just really embarrassed now. I'm like really ashamed
Did you
of
think
myself.
I was going to say that as well, or what?
No, I was going to say Dominion, and then I didn't.
We are promising you 2 episodes on Jurassic Park. We will talk in general about the Jurassic Park franchise, and we will do a review of Jurassic World Dominion.
Was that an actual accident, or you did that on purpose?
No, I did that on purpose.
Okay.
Sorry. Shameless, absolutely shameless. So that is next week and the week after. So do look out for that.
We wanted to also say thank you very much to everybody who helped us reach 1,000 listens. Here's to the next 1,000.
Yeah.
And please like, review, subscribe, Facebook. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want. Let us know who you are. Let us know what you're wearing.
Whoa. And also...
that's like, of those things, that's probably the one that we're going to get from people. Shall we move on the rest of our day?
Oh, all right then.
Thanks for talking to me. I'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week.
All right. And I don't know why it's Josh Whittaker again.
Oh, hello, Josh Whittaker.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
What's our seat number?